sign of Rick at this point? Or?
Yeah, he's here. He's in the public, public side. So he and Jessa Berna are also, she's also there. So I can promote them. I can promote Rick to panelists, and we can record. Like I just started recording this, so at least we'll have it, and we can share that with anybody who wasn't able to make it tonight. And that way they have Rick's presentation. And since you and I have already seen it,
it'd be great to bring Jessa into the conversation too.
She's coming.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So
yeah, let's go for it and take it away.
Let's see.
I'm sure you sent an agenda. Let me find it.
Yeah, earlier today I sent one, Lynn, and last over the weekend I think I sent one.
So Andrew.
Let's see the coastal waters one.
All right, so there's Rick and Jessa.
Hey everybody.
How you doing?
Hey Rick. Hey Jessa. How are you?
Good.
So Rick, do you have? I assume you probably have things you want to share as far as screen. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yep. And I think I thought there was something I had to do to promote you.
I could see if I can share right now and see what happens here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, it works. So I think Andrew already promoted you to whatever you needed to be promoted to in order to do that. So I guess we're good. So as you probably heard us saying, we have more than a few people who couldn't make it tonight, unfortunately. But I am recording this so that we can share your presentation with them. You know, at any point they can dial it up and take a look at it. So it's not for nothing. It's not a redundant presentation to people that have already seen it. And Lynn, you haven't seen it, I assume. Neither has Deputy Chief Huntress. So there are a couple of people in attendance that this will be new for. Bob, do you want to just let them go?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris, as you know, you and I met with Rick a couple of weeks ago. We were intrigued by what sounds like a great little project here in Saco and Biddeford. And as I recall, Rick did a great job of selling the project and selling himself. So I'm going to get out of the way and hand it off.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Yeah, so I'm Rick Harbison. I'm a planner at PACS, and I'm the project manager for the Biddeford Saco Transit-Oriented Development Plan. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the discussion. Also here with Jessa Berna. Jessa, as I go through this, feel free to chime in periodically if you like. I guess that goes for everyone too. It's sort of a smaller group. So if you guys have questions while I'm going through some of the slides, feel free to just jump right in. So I'm gonna go ahead and just start with the presentation here.
And Jessa, for our viewing audience, would you just introduce yourself and tell us what you do for the city of Saco?
Absolutely, absolutely. Hi, thanks for having me. I am Jessa Berna. I'm the Economic Development Specialist with the city, and I've been the staff appointed person to work on this project as in part of Rick's advisory committee, which he'll talk about in a minute. And just while Rick is loading that up, I'll just add this project. The Biddeford Saco Transit-Oriented Development Plan is a project that Biddeford and Saco jointly applied to PACS to have them do this project back in 2018. And I think there were a couple of applications. So we weren't the first project funded, but we're the next one. So basically Rick will get into kind of the details of what he's doing and what the project will consist of, but it's just the final document will be a plan that we can use focused on the Mill District and Saco Island. It's something that's a resource for the city and for the city of Biddeford and the transit agencies to use as we see fit moving forward, to make some recommendations about a lot of different things involving transportation and development in that area.
Thanks, Jessa. Can everybody see the PowerPoint right now?
Nope.
No.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. I guess I forgot to share.
There we go.
Now we're good.
Now we're good.
All right.
Could you email that presentation to us as well?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I thought I'd just start out by defining transit-oriented development. In case you're not familiar with it, it's a planning term. It's been around for a while. So the most concise definition I could come up with is this one. It's a type of development that maximizes the amount of residential, business, and leisure space within walking distance of a public transit hub. So the goal is to promote sustainable growth by increasing walkability and usage of public transit while reducing dependence on personal vehicles. So the primary point is if you live in one of these neighborhoods, you should be able to meet most of your daily needs in the immediate vicinity. And then if you work, you could potentially work within walking distance of where you live, or at the very least, take transit to your job. So from a big picture perspective, the reason why PACS is interested in these types of projects is that the greater Portland region, the Biddeford-Saco region are growing. And then in the last several decades, a lot of that growth has occurred in the suburban and rural communities. So our interest is to encourage growth in the places that are more sustainable and already developed, to try and preserve our open spaces and our habitat and agricultural lands, the qualities about Maine that we like the most. Ultimately, to reduce our environmental impact and the cost too of our transportation network of building new roads and maintaining roads, everything that goes with it. So we see the Biddeford-Saco area and the Mill District as one of the real bright spots in the region. As a place where growth is occurring in a developed area already. We're revitalizing, or people are revitalizing existing buildings and spaces, and so to the extent we can, we want to target our resources to places like these. But also, as the area continues to get more populated and continues to grow, it's also important that it becomes more accessible and walkable and bikeable, and that transit service improves in lockstep with that growth and development, so that not everyone is driving. I think the way I think about it is kind of like the mills. So like, just as the mills need to be adapted for different kinds of uses, the roads and our transportation network also need to evolve to kind of meet the new needs of the area. So this is just a little bit of a background of our plan. So our timeline is basically this year. We might end up pushing out a few months. We had to take a little bit of a delay due to COVID. It's a $40,000 budget for the plan with no local match. So the local match really is just as in-kind time and whatever else, what other SACO staff are involved. The description in a nutshell is provide ideas and recommendations for how to create a more pedestrian-oriented environment that supports increased use of public transit. So ultimately the recommendations from this report, they're not binding or anything. The intent is really to show what's possible, to generate a good list of suggested improvements for both the cities to act on to the extent that you can. We do have a steering committee. It's comprised of PAC staff. We hired a landscape architecture firm, Richardson and Associates, to help us with some of the renderings and graphics. We're working with City of Biddeford and Saco staff, BSUB Transit, NEPRA on the Downeaster, and Maine DOT as well. And then the deliverables, we'll have a final plan, as well as any renderings that Richardson and Associates produce. And that's just a link to our project website. And the area to the right is our general study area. So it's not a hard boundary, but really looking at Saco Island, Spring Island, the Biddeford Mill District, and the areas that are immediately influenced by that. All right, so as I mentioned, so we hired Richardson and Associates. I'm just going to refer to them as Todd and Ken from here on out. but we hired them to help us prepare some more detailed renderings and graphics for specific areas within that larger study area. So this map is showing the 3 areas that the steering committee identified for them to focus on and take the lead on. So the study area 1 is that blue area. It's adjacent to the Saco Transportation Center. It is also connected to Main Street. Study area 2 is the purple, and that's basically the Main Street corridor from Gooch Street down to the bridge. And then study area 3 is in Biddeford. It's basically the former Merck site, the Pearl Street area, the connection to Lincoln Street and Elm Street. So for each study area, Todd and Ken, they're going to prepare a detailed top-down kind of plan view rendering with all sorts of different improvement ideas where you might consider bike lanes, sidewalks, street lights, parks, scenic overlooks, those types of features. And then they're also going to develop 4 on-the-ground illustrations that are meant to kind of imagine what it looks like if you're there on the ground. So the way I think about it is that the plan itself and our project team, we're going to be evaluating the whole study area, the area within the red boundary, and that's kind of like the 30,000 foot perspective. The plan view renderings that Todd and Ken are putting together, that's more of the 15,000 foot view. There's going to be some more detailed renderings for those specific locations. And then those illustrations are going to be like right down on the ground, really imagining what it's like with those improvements. So I thought I'd share with you some of the results of our public engagement. So we do have a survey out right now. It's still open, and hopefully you guys have taken it or seen it. I think right now I'm just gonna switch over to the survey itself. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
All right. So this is the survey.
What's the website for that survey, please?
It is Biddeford Saco TOD hyphen. Oh, sorry. This is a demo version. I have it in my Lynn. I have it in my PowerPoint at the end. I've got the link there. So this is just a demo version, so I could walk you through it. But it kind of has this accordion style where you click here, it shows you what the study area is, ask people's experience with the Biddeford Saco area. Most responses that have come in, I'd say about half are from people that live, work, or live and work in the actual Mill District. And then half are folks who visit. We have questions about how easy or difficult is it to walk or bike in the area. So for most, so far at least, it seems people feel like it's easier to walk and much more difficult to bike in the area. And we have questions about taking the bus and taking the train, and these are all, there's kind of a range. I haven't really crunched the numbers yet, but we had lots of good feedback in the open-ended question about what would get you to ride the bus or take the Downeaster more. And parking, it seems like folks felt that parking was also difficult in the area. This screen was the map markers screen, which is pretty handy. I think I'll show you the results of this next, but I've been really thrilled with the amount of responses we've had for the map screen here. So the idea with this is that you zoom in to a specific area where there's an issue, or you feel there's an issue, and then you drop an icon, and then you can type in what it is that you feel the issue is. So it could be like needs crosswalk or something like that. And then we had a vision page. So if you could make one improvement to the Biddeford Saco Mill area, what would it be? And then we had kind of this wrap up screen to just get a little bit more, see how we're doing representative to the demographics of the communities. And we also had an email, provide your email if you'd like updates box here, and been happy with that too. We've got about 75 or 80 maybe emails now. So that'll be really helpful for future engagement efforts. And, we're looking to launch another survey probably in another couple of weeks. So I think what I'll do is I'll show you the results of the map screen right now. So it's a little wild, but these are all icons that people have drag and dropped onto the map to identify issues. So far we've had about 370 responses to the survey.
Great.
And each person was asked to drop 3 pins. So we've got about 900 or 1,000 issues identified. So I won't go through them all, but it's really fascinating to go through. Just looking at the main street here as one of our study areas, I'm seeing a lot of these bike icons are referencing the need for a bike lane, more accommodations for cyclists, feeling like you get crowded and squeezed in by cars going up this hill. A lot of the walking issues here were heavy traffic. Sidewalk on this side of Main Street is an issue that's been identified a lot.
This
Safer
looks like
crossing.
it's like this is more about Biddeford. This looks like 90% Biddeford and maybe 10% Saco. Would that be accurate?
These comments, you mean, or the?
Well, everything. I mean, I would like to know if the people of Saco have had a chance to weigh in on this. It came as quite a surprise, actually, because the Conservation Commission and Parks and Rec, we were looking at, with this grant money, we were looking at up by the train trestle, and we were looking over by Factory Island to get over to our Fisherman's Walk. Then all of a sudden this came out, but so I'm not sure that the Saco people have had a really good chance to weigh in. So I'd like to have that information.
Yeah, happy to. We're doing our best to get the word out. I'm always interested to hear, if you feel like there's other stakeholder groups we should be reaching out to in Saco, be happy to do that.
Well, it wasn't on our website. I didn't see it on our website. And
can I interject here for one moment? I know that I talked with Emily Roy about promoting this on our website, and our plan is to do more, like a sort of second push with this survey and promote it on our website in the next week or so. We did delay doing that just because the city had a number of other surveys, one being for our market analysis that we were releasing right at the same time, so we didn't want to overwhelm people with it on our Facebook page. But I do know that some other groups in Saco have pushed the survey, including I think Saco Main Street and BSOOB Transit, and maybe H-Friendly Saco as well. So we're definitely going to do a second push.
Well, as a city councilor, I didn't know, so that's where I'm coming from. So just want to know the facts.
Mm-hmm.
I am encouraged to see all the pins or whatever you're calling these, the drops on Saco Island itself. Clearly the Main Street corridor there has gotten a lot of comments, so pleased to see that.
Yep. And all these comments are unique to the people placing them. So this isn't a map where when you log in, you see what everyone else is put on there as issues, and then you can kind of add on to it. This is a map where people are seeing it as a blank map every time. And so, the fact that there are concentrations of issues in certain spots, like, just kind of reinforces that people are coming to those conclusions on their own. They're not necessarily influenced by what they're seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if, Rick, I don't expect a do-over. I'm not asking for one. I don't expect one. If I had been laying out the map of the study area, from a Saco-centric perspective, Yeah, I probably would have run it up to Beach Street, run it up Main Street to Beach, and then
Yes.
come back down Elm Street, come back down Route 1, and just, snagged downtown Saco in that manner. But with that said, I'm not quibbling. I like what I'm seeing.
I think it's all about the parking garage in Bedford.
Yeah, certainly about the Mill District, no question there. And it should get attention. I agree.
Yeah, how much of that is driven by all the development in terms of like residential development that's going into that mill area in Biddeford too? We don't have that, as much of that going on the Saco side of the river.
Right. While we've got that view up, and I appreciate the opportunity to comment. And Chris, when you and I and Gene and Rick talked a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to sound like a broken record, Rick, but I go over to Elm Street from over in Biddeford, really from the train crossing that you can see very nicely here.
Yeah.
And then you head towards Spring Island, across the island, and across the bridge once again, and then you're into Saco. If there's anyone, and I think this might have been one of the survey questions that just flashed by us, if there's any one particular corridor or area that I, as a pedestrian, and I suppose as a bicyclist too, that I kind of shudder, that I kind of better pay attention, because if things go bad, they're going to be very bad. It's that stretch right there.
Yeah.
It's not much to look at visually. The room for improvement is there's plenty of room for improvement. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Rick, I have a question. So if out of these surveys you determine that there's a corridor there, does PACS have money to either acquire land because with the amount of traffic that either goes through Elm Street or that Main Street corridor, it's maxed out right now, vehicular traffic and all of that. Does PACS have the money to assist with that for those types of improvements, if you're talking bike lanes and everything that way?
Yeah, I don't want to overcommit, but I think PACS certainly has money for projects. I don't know if it would could be used to expand a right of way, or if that would have to be a municipal match or something like that. But I think certainly these are any projects in this area would be competitive with any other project in the region, considering that this is a focus area for us, and that we have been doing, having done this plan, and the fact that this is sort of a priority center for PACS. I think those are strong factors in favor of funding certain projects in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my thought here, Bob, I'm pretty much done. I was gonna, turn it over to you guys to, ask really if there's, and I think I know where you land, Bob, but in terms of, I see there's a lot of issues on the map, and what would be kind of helpful for me and Jessa is understanding priorities and major concerns. So if the Bike Ped Committee has issues like perennial issues at certain locations, or specific issues that really rise to the top, I'd love to hear it. And I could also share some of the ideas we're floating around too, but I thought I'd start with kind of identifying issues and prioritizing concerns.
I think to what Lynn was saying, the Saco section of it is pretty small, so we don't really have too many areas that we could have concerns with in comparison to the Biddeford side of things. I don't know of any specific issues. Do you, Bob, in those areas, other than the Main Street corridor, obviously up by the transit station, which we've talked about?
Yeah, I can see why all the pins have been dropped there, and I assume that's a lot well, could be both cyclists and pedestrians, but Rick already mentioned a sidewalk on the easterly side of Main Street there.
Yep.
Someday it'll happen, and it'll be a great addition, I think, as witnessed by the cow path that you see now. So clearly, it gets a lot of traffic now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've talked to the Public Works folks in the past about when new striping went down. Why is there not a fog line on the along the easterlymost curb line, so as to give a cyclist, even a foot, that they show that a bicyclist does belong here. And Pat Fox has said we just don't have the width. By the time you've striped in the dominant uses there, obviously the cars and trucks, the cyclists get the short end of the stick. So, and it's a little unfortunate because, of course, that stretch of Main Street from Biddeford into Saco up York Hill is part of US Bike Route 1. So we're liable to have people from across the country and around the world on that stretch. And what have we got to show them? Well, enjoy the view and look at the beautiful bike pedestrian bridge down the river.
So, I mean, the possibility of expanding the right of way and let's see if I can change my screen here. I know there's a bit of a slope here on the eastern side, but I mean, is it at all unreasonable to think
that's not the island.
Just trying to adjust my
Well, and part of it, if the study would have gone down Main Street, you would have seen in Saco that there are, parallel, the parking is, along the road, and there's really no room for bicycles, or designation of a bicycle lane like Bob's talking about. I mean, that would be fantastic, because honestly, you could get up that big hill faster on a bicycle than you can a car most days during commute.
Oh yeah, yep. You pass cars regularly when you're on a bike.
So, I mean, is it possible, would you think, to dig into this this slope here, expand the right of way a little bit? Is that the conversation you had, Bob, with Patrick at all, or?
Well, the thing is, of course, we've got that easterly side of Saco Island, Rick, and you perhaps know that separately from this whole effort, or perhaps you've heard some feedback on it. But 2-3 years ago, it was very much in play. There was going to be like a $60 or $80 million mixed-use project on. It's roughly 5.5 acres over there, and very much so. They were going to run sidewalk all the way from Pepperell, well, wherever it ends, the other side of the railroad tracks, perhaps, up at the top of the hill, down the hill, by the CMP installation, and right down to their project driveway. So that was a huge improvement for pedestrians, little question there.
And part of that was continuing it down by Run of the Mill and having a pedestrian crosswalk there with lights and flashing lights. There was a lot of discussion about that to get onto the other side of the street. And that's where they were going to have, I don't know if you can see in this picture, but right here where they're talking about, right in the very bottom of the picture, like that where the river and the road are right there. The bridge was supposed to go under there and around onto Factory Island. That's what this grant was initially earmarked for. So, so that island is going to be developed. It's just a question of who and when. But I think putting the infrastructure in, people are already on that Factory Island. And one of the things is it's on the Saco River. So there's 100 feet from the water in that cannot be developed. And so that's where we would like to continue the river walk. And that's why we wanted that bridge there to get over there. But this other bridge isn't going to take us there at all.
Gotcha. Well,
Is there a way to maybe put like a small pedestrian bridge under there?
Yeah, my
go ahead, Bob.
understanding on that, Lynn, is you're not going to find a receptive public works department there. I think Pat and Joe both have poo-pooed the idea. Actually, MDOT, which obviously is a big player here, I think they likewise have nixed the idea of a bridge under the bridge.
Yeah, but you're exactly right. We heard very firm feedback from MDOT that that was not an option to do a bridge either under or to do an underpass at that location. So
Why?
right now the talks have been more about a potential at-grade crossing of the crosswalk or a light, something there to make that connection continue, because unfortunately we're not able to make that underground passage.
What was their reasoning?
It was before my time, but I think it had to do with more of a structural engineering issue. But I can look into why exactly that was their determination. But
If anybody's ever been up on the Lewiston Auburn Riverwalk, there is a spectacular example of exactly what we're talking about. Auburn found a way, and I don't know if they had to deal with MDOT in their situation, but they installed a pedestrian bridge under a vehicular bridge, and it works great. You know, it continues their Riverwalk. So it was very much that being what we were pointing to and thinking about when we went after that grant. But you know, with MDOT perpetually, you're up against, and I say, no, I'm not going to say it. So at any rate,
Well, Peter Mills has come into our city hall and talked to us, and he, you know, of course, the turnpike is his thing, but there's influence there. We just because somebody says no doesn't mean it's over.
I like your attitude, Lynn. Right on. Yep.
Bob and Lynn, I believe when, at least the plans that I saw, it was to tunnel under the road, not a bridge. It went out, and then under the bridge, and then back onto the land. It was a tunnel that would go under the road from the back of basically the run-of-the-mill public house over to the undeveloped side. And that was going to be costly. I know
I've never heard of that. That's news to me.
I know they talked about the at-grade crossing, that when that development does happen, or more development, and when those traffic lights do meet warrants, that's when they would consider putting in that crosswalk at that point, when there's when that traffic light would get turned on, and that's where the crosswalk would go for the pedestrian crossing right there.
There's also the option of putting a pedestrian bridge over the road.
Yeah, and that has been explored too, in part because it would have to meet ADA guidelines. You'd have a hellacious approach on both sides. You know, you'd have to have a very moderate slope to get up to the elevation of the actual bridge. So it would be an interesting engineering feat. But I think anybody who lives, works, is familiar with this stretch of roads, this bridge between the two cities and York Hill, recognizes what you're asking to put a significant amount of pedestrian traffic crossing that road. It would be, I mean, put in a crosswalk, put in lights. That's a wonderful, you know, and clearly lights stopping traffic so people can cross. But
yeah, there's a hill and a curve. It's not easy.
Oh, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and a couple, you know, 3 different intersections going up the hill.
And of course, the hope is with the 5.5 acres on the east side that the plan that had been looked at was mixed, and there were, gosh, I think over 100 condo units, restaurant, brew pub, little bit of retail, I think. I mean, you're trying to create a destination. You're trying to create something that people are going to be gravitating to. And so, yeah, is there going to be foot traffic between there and the other part of that? I would think so.
Well, if you'll indulge me, I might share some of the ideas that we've been thinking about, and I could take the temperature a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very interested.
All right, so when you look at Main Street, I've done some measuring, and it looks like it's 50 feet across. And so when you look at that, when you take that width, and the lanes themselves are about 12 feet, you could do a road diet here where you go down to 2 drive lanes in either direction and then a center turn lane in like strategic areas. And then that would give you enough space on either side to have what I'm seeing as like a 5-foot bike lane with, you could even have like bollards, I guess you'd call them. So that's one option. I mean, you'd have to engineer it out and make sure that the queue links are long enough for the turn lanes, but you could certainly do a road diet here. I mean, it seems like a good candidate for it. The other option that we've been toying with visualizing is a landscape median. I'm just gonna go ahead and show you these different, we've got these like rough cross sections here. Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah.
No, I can't. Well, maybe I just need to move it. Never mind. I'm good.
Oh, all right. Yeah, so this
I had
is
stretched
showing
it.
this is showing Main Street with that center turn lane with bike lanes on either side. The right side would be, you know, the east side of the street towards the future development. And then the other idea would be to have a landscape median. If you were to stay within that 50-foot right-of-way, you would lose a bike lane basically. So you'd have to, the downhill in that instance would then become more of a shared bike facility, which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world since it's downhill, but you know, obviously it's not separated. But you'd also have a landscape median for part of the road.
What's the advantage to the landscape median?
Advantages to landscape median is it provides a little traffic calming. So there's been lots of studies that show when the road gets narrower, people tend to slow down and observe their surroundings a little bit more. I mean, it's certainly design-wise, it's also a little bit more appealing if it's landscaped and, you know, it's pretty to look at. The other option is, the other advantage would be if it's set up near a crossing, it could also act as like a pedestrian refuge island where people can cross halfway and then cross the rest. I mean, ideally, if you could expand the right of way of the road, you could have bike lanes, maybe do the road diet, bike lanes, and have a landscape median. That'd be really impressive. But within that 50-foot right of way, and you could potentially, here's another, that's with the landscape median, I guess, but
Okay.
yeah, I'm not sure that adds up, sorry. But yeah, I mean, you could potentially do bike lanes. So I guess that would be one question I'd have for the group is, if you were to have to choose between those two ideas of having bike lanes on either side or bike lanes on one side and a shared bike lane on going downhill with a landscape median, what would your preference be?
So you're asking the bike and ped group.
Let me ask you this, Rick.
Yeah.
Pre-pandemic, have you taken traffic counts of that road diet, of how far that will back traffic up that already sits on Main Street in Saco and sits on Main Street in Biddeford, of how far that would back that up and how long of a, basically Main Street for us is a pass through for traffic.
Yeah.
And how far that would back that up during pre-pandemic when you have those rush hour times, by shrinking all that down to one lane and a turn lane.
I mean, I personally am not really qualified to do that type of analysis. I mean, I think we can, look at how it's functioning today. We can look at the traffic volumes pre-pandemic. I think it's around 20,000 vehicles per day. You know, we can float some ideas with how to use the space conceptually. Ultimately, I think you would want to have an engineer really crunch the numbers and make sure that the links are right for the travel lanes, and that it wouldn't cause a huge issue, concern. I mean, the other thing is just thinking about the goals of this area. One of the things we've talked about in the steering committee is how this, you know, you have downtown Saco, and it's a really nice, pleasant, you're going through downtown Saco, there's a lot to look at, you're driving slower because of that. It's pedestrian wise, you can walk on both sides, you can cross. Then you get to this stretch, and it kind of turns into a little bit more of like a highway mentality, where it's like, all right, for this stretch, I can zoom right through and step on it a little bit. And then you get down, and then you get into Biddeford, where it's much slower again, and you're in more of a constrained zone with lots going on. So, I mean, the goals of this project are really to amp up the ability to bike or walk on this roadway, and also to slow traffic down. I'm not suggesting we completely bottle traffic up, but to the extent that we can advantage bikers and walkers and the ability to switch trips, so they're not feeling like they have to drive everywhere for shorter trips, then, you know, there's probably some advantages there to look at, especially with that new development on the east side. You know, being able to cross this road and have a friendlier atmosphere on this road, I think would be huge.
I wonder too, and this is kind of a question, so I'm not really familiar with that area during rush hour and during that peak traffic time. But considering the fact that 2 of those lanes are just turn lanes, how much do they really alleviate traffic right now anyway, in terms of that backup? You know, like if people are just passing through them, they're not really using those 2 lanes. So if you squeeze that down into 1 lane where people can make the turns that they need to make anyway, I feel like you're not necessarily adding to that backup much. But
When
yeah,
you have the rush hour traffic that's going north, if you will, on Main Street, both of those lanes are pretty full for traffic turning down Water Street, back at least beyond Gooch Street, and sometimes to the entrance of 110 Main Street. Both lanes are full, and the lane going is full into Biddeford, well back beyond Hill Street.
But like, I guess I'm asking, could you maybe even, I guess you might lose the bike lane then, but if you had it break out, maybe like do like 1 lane going towards Saco all the way up towards the top of the hill where some of that traffic, and then expand it into 2 lane for left-hand turn and straight there, would that work?
That's kind of what we're toying with, is like a similar approach to how things are done on Main Street in Saco, where, you know, you have a single lane and then it turns into 2 for a certain section, and then it's the other direction, you know. And I think there are some advantages to that as well. Just you know, when you have these 2 lanes, I've noticed that you know, if you get in the left lane too early and someone's trying to turn left here, but you were actually getting in the left lane to turn left on Gooch Street, and then you're stuck, and then you're trying to get in that right lane to get around the person who's going left. So, you know, with the striping, it could make things, like doing that road diet, could make things a little bit more clear cut visually, in terms of like where you should be if you want to go left into the mill at the run-of-the-mill entrance versus Gooch Street or whatever. So, you know, I think there's pros and cons to each. I think we'd have to, it's not something that this plan is going to address engineering-wise. I mean, we're not there. It's more of a initial recommendation, but I guess if the bike ped committee is not on board, then it may be a tough sell.
Personally, I like the idea of the road diet and the bike lanes on both sides. To answer your question, if you want
Yeah.
to,
I go with that too. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, this stretch in a way is a problem creator rather than a problem solver. As somebody noted earlier, as soon as you get across the river into Biddeford and onto its main street, then it necks right down to, one lane, north, one lane south, whatever.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you get past Pepperell Square, of course, one lane north, one lane south. So it's kind of like a little Indianapolis 500 here for about a half a mile.
Yeah.
And as we all know, it's amazing, but going uphill, cars just seem to go faster. I haven't figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what you would do if you did have bike lanes here would be, one of the other questions would be, okay, are you just providing facilities for people that just end abruptly? So I think what you then want to do is carry those bike lanes onto Main Street here as shared bike facilities, so shared lane. You could certainly do that Saco Main Street and in Biddeford Main Street, just a little bit more awareness that bikers can use the lane.
Yeah, interesting thought.
So
We could put up signs.
yeah,
Striping.
I'll just give you a couple of the other big ideas we're kicking around.
Yeah, could you all, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you got me excited here, Andrew. I'm 2 loops out from the inner loop on this whole notion of the new bike and ped bridge. And Jessa, I think you're very up on that, are you not?
Would
yeah,
you like an update on that project?
Yeah, where would, I don't even know exactly where it is proposed for.
Yeah, so basically, that project is right. Thank you, Rick. There was the Saco Main Street, with the help of the city, acquired some money from the Sewell Foundation to do it through a grant to do a project that was very focused on kind of interconnectivity between and connecting people and places. And one of the big pitches for why the city was selected for that grant was this connection between Saco and Biddeford. And as Councilor Copeland mentioned earlier, that money was originally intended for the tunnel underneath Main Street project. But when I came on, the directive was that project unfortunately was no longer feasible. And I worked with Saco Main Street and the Sewell Foundation to find work with the communities to find a project that would be a good candidate to use that funds that Saco Main Street had for that project. And this one really came to the forefront as there was a lot of interest from both communities in making a bike ped bridge connection at that location. So that was what was approved by and Saco Main Street was really interested in making that connection as well. And it's something that had been identified in our comp plan and another of other documents in Saco. So we have moved forward with an RFP for that project to do a concept plan. So kind of similar, it's not a designed engineered bridge, it's just kind of the first phase of exploring, is this project even feasible? What would it look like? How much would it cost? Kind of what are the next steps before doing any of that kind of work? So it's a very preliminary study that we had just actually, the RFP closed on Tuesday, so we're looking at proposals right now.
Interesting. So really it would be connecting the Saco Transportation Center with the Merck site.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
pretty cool.
Their new building, their new parking garage.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So as I understand it, there's going to be, zoom out a little bit. There's Richardson and Associates are actually working on a design for a park here. The parking garage would be here. And then there's all sorts of new residential development on either side of the parking garage. And then there's also some preliminary plans for really big residential development out over here. Plus you've got this site that probably will eventually get redeveloped. So you know, I think the idea is really for everyone that lives in this area, in addition to everyone else over here, provide pretty good direct access, like right to the Saco Transportation Center, and then having a little bit of a landing pad, right, or you know, a little bit of a park over here as well. I mean, that's really short walking distance, and then you're also avoiding having to go through the mills, having to go up the hill. I mean, it's a pretty straight shot. So
one of the things I really liked about this idea is that it brings potentially people from Biddeford and the development that's happening there, just a quicker and easier way to access Saco. And I think that can be really great for economic development in our Main Street and Mill District, just having more people there and accessing our transportation center, and hopefully having better bike ped connections across the board to access our downtown. And that having that connection there, I think will be really great for both cities in an economic development perspective.
Yeah.
So as a city councilor, I can't help but think about the budget. So this project, the grant money is for the research and the the idea scoping, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where does the money come from to construct all this?
That's a great question, and that's not really determined. There's a number of different paths that could for potential funding. There's definitely the potential to get tax funding for a project like this, which would require a local match between Saco and Biddeford. There's also the potential to do a public-private partnership of some sort, or not also, and or kind of. I know that some of the developers in the Mill District might be, I think it would benefit the projects happening in Biddeford and maybe even some of the development happening in Saco. So they might be interested in helping fund a project like that, as it would benefit their private development as well. So I think there's a number of avenues that could be pursued. And that is one of the things. I think having some potential funding paths forward is one of the requested deliverables of the project that we put, the RFP that we just wrapped up.
All right, because I still, looking at all this stuff, I still see that this is Biddeford centric. I realize there's two little paths that'll be, going to Saco, but my goodness, that looks like Biddeford's project.
It's interesting because as we've been talking about the project, I've actually thought it was more about Saco Island than anywhere else. And a lot of the focus
for the transportation.
The transportation center, and a lot of the focus in terms of the bike ped friendly connections has been really focused on Main Street through Saco Island. I'm actually not exactly sure where the bounds of the study area originated. I think it was in that 2018 application that the cities jointly submitted to PACs. So unfortunately, that was kind of set a while ago, but I don't think there's any reason why, Rick, I'm just throwing it out to you, might be open to, as we look at suggestions, trying to make sure that we think more holistically about tying Main Street into the project area.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. My thought on the study area, I've already increased it a little bit from the initial proposed one, but I like to think of it as kind of fuzzy, just so that we're not missing things as we go that might be important. So if you feel like it should be, there's some issues that need to be addressed further down Main Street towards Saco. I mean, I don't see that that'd be a huge deal to incorporate some of those ideas.
Well, that one idea about that bridge going under, that's not going to happen. The idea before that for this fund, this grant, was, I don't know if you can see it. It's right there where there's a dam over by where the fish thing is, right there where your mouse is over there. Right?
Yeah.
Connecting right there. That's it. Connecting that across there. And that would alleviate a lot of the problem with bicycles and pedestrians going over that highly trafficked bridge. And there is, and we're going to work on it. We're working on it now. There's a park in there with paths, and that's where the original idea for this was.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I've heard about that. And with that bridge, is the thought that it looks like there's some footings here or something right there. Is that the spot?
Wait, but
it would be
no.
more up here.
Yes.
So the idea would be like kind of the narrowest point right there.
Right.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think
Because
especially,
the spot where you had that mouse before, that's a lot of the designs that I've seen have marinas right there. So this was
oh,
kind
yeah.
of more in town and so forth, and nobody was going to be bothered by it. It was just going to connect the island and the Riverwalk.
Yeah, and I think especially as this island gets developed, having a nice quick connection across there would be really convenient and helpful.
And before we leave there, Rick, everybody on this call ought to acquaint themselves with this section of the Saco Riverwalk. So we're looking at Riverfront Park. The city did it back in right around 1990. That was CMP, formerly FPL. Maybe it's all the way up to Brookfield Development now.
Yeah.
But that little vegetated stretch on the Saco side, that's basically the start of the city's Riverwalk. The Riverwalk goes downstream from here about 3,500 feet. Over the past 6-8 months, we have worked with Ryan Summer over in Parks and Rec has been talking with Denise in economic development, who works with Jessa. We're lined up right now for just under $100,000 boardwalk project, right along the edge of water there, next to the vegetation. So that's going to be a huge improvement to what today is called the Fisherman's Path.
Yeah.
It's about a 400-foot long section. It's going to make it far more accessible for anybody who is anything less than spry afoot.
Yeah.
So it's going to be much improved access. Should be done by November is what Ryan tells us. So just be aware. We think it's going to be a nice little shot in the arm for the Riverwalk.
Yeah, absolutely. I did walk it with my 3-year-old daughter a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
She had a blast. But yeah, because I was curious, because I did see some comments here in the survey. People felt like it could use some improvement.
A lot of improvement. It's a mess.
Doesn't feel safe. Someone said it's scary.
Yeah, we really need
It's narrow and dark.
clear some vegetation out of there, and who knows, maybe even get a game camera or two up there, because I don't think it's easy for law officers to cruise past there, and unless you get out of your car at 2 a.m. and go walk the thing, you've got no idea what's going on over there in the trees.
Did you say the development will be done by November?
No,
the funding.
that boardwalk improvement, about 400 feet, which is going to be a nice new. It's going to be done by Northern Docks. No, is that the name of it? No, Great Northern Docks.
Yeah. Up in Naples.
Yeah. Yes. And so, hey, we've gone from like, let's see if we can pull together about 10 grand and go beg Hancock Lumber for some pressure treated lumber. Ryan Summer, much to his credit, has said, heck with that. Let's do this once and do it right. So he got in touch with Great Northern Docks. It's been out to bid. It will be about a $100,000 improvement to that section of the Fisherman's Path / Saco Riverwalk.
A priority for our Parks and Rec. We are really trying to accentuate the parks because the rec has taken the focus there. And so we're really trying to ramp up all of our parks. And the Conservation Commission has gone around and GPS marked them. We're going to have all of our trails on a phone app. But the ultimate goal is to get a green belt. So from down to the ocean, through town, out to the heath, over to the river and connect it. And that's for bicycles and pedestrians. So that's the ultimate goal. And, this would go a long way to get people out there and get them off that road there. That road is horrifying.
Yeah, that's exciting. I think anything we can do to improve conditions on that road would be a huge help. Speaking of parks, though, just some of the other ideas that we had here. We were looking at this spot right here. This is owned by the city right here.
Yep.
Right now, it's just a fence, like a aluminum wire fence. chain link fence, thank you. And so our thought was, one of the ideas is you could have a little park there, have some scenic overlooks, potentially like one right there. Todd and Ken were thinking like a really neat spot for a pavilion. You could have like a scenic overlook up here that would be, maybe like 2 stories, and that would give you a really good view of the river over here. Some of the other ideas we've been thinking about is this Google image is out of date. This is all surface parking right now, but
Right.
sometime, maybe the distant future, you could do, as the area gets developed, some of this could be a parking garage, which would then open up this to be green space, and potentially more of this to be green space. And it could be, some place where it could be a venue of sorts. It could be a place where you have farmers markets or even concerts or things like that. Someone could pull their boat up to the marina on the other side at Saco Island and walk up to do something in this area. So, I guess what we're doing with this plan is kind of blending, to the extent we can, some ideas that are a little bit more incremental improvements, maybe some shorter term ideas for things you could do, and then also thinking a little bit more outside the box, a little bit more radical, I guess. And 10, 20 years from now, what could emerge. So we're kind of trying to strike a balance a little bit, I guess, with proposing some ideas that would improve the area in the short term, and then also be visionary, but not so radical that we get laughed out of the room, I guess.
And of course, the nice thing here is that you're in an area with existing TIFs. So there's actually an economic engine here that can throw off some revenues to make some of these things happen.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things near term that we're working on is at the train station parking lot there is to configure that space so that we can have electric buses and have the charging stations there. So I don't know that there's going to be a lot of available space there. I think we're going to probably be cutting into some of that.
Yeah, we did come up at our last meeting. We did, talk with Tony, and it sounds like one of the stations is going to be here where the wind turbine was, and the other station would likely be there.
Right. So there goes.
So that would sort of take up that side most likely for a bus to be, circulating around. But maybe that means that the green space could be more over here.
That parking lot behind the train station is full most times.
Yeah, so I think what you would do is accommodate parking through a parking garage.
Who owns that land back there? Is that Saco Island? Is that Saco's land?
Well, the
City owns the parking lot.
City owns.
Yeah, but that green grass there.
Oh, back there, CMP, I think's got at least a slice of that.
And
I believe that's all private, owned by Chinbro that owns that building that they just redeveloped. That whole big parking lot is all private, because when we have snow bans, they all move over to the city lot, but they tow anybody who parks in their parking lot because it's all private.
Yeah, it's Chinberg Properties.
Yeah, so you'd have to have a private, parking garage or whatever in there.
Yep.
But with that intermodal bridge that goes across, they could utilize Biddeford's parking garage in order to come across whatever's at the transportation center and all of that.
Good point. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, and the other, one last thing I'd run by you is just this intersection of Butte Street and Main Street, and thinking about ways to make that easier for the buses to be able to make left turns. So might be recommending like a signal has like a signal priority for buses. So we would give buses the green light when they're there. Another option, which is a little bit more outside the box, would be to do a roundabout here, like a smaller roundabout, and then buses would be able to take a right turn there and probably have an easier time ultimately making that left. And it looks like there's space, like the city owns the right of way. It's like pretty tight over here, but over here, this, the city owns a fair amount of that. So you could potentially put a roundabout in there.
Huh,
It'd be tight.
interesting.
Might be tight, yeah. So, just a thought that's, occurred. I think those are all the big ideas.
Cool. Do you have any
Are-
idea in terms of responses to the survey? Like what the percentage of people from Saco versus percentage of people from Biddeford have been?
Well, now that you say that, yeah, I'm wondering. I mean, I thought it was about 50-50, but I could look. I mean, ultimately, with the survey, it's gonna be open for another couple weeks, and then, my thought with surveys is to, before I close them, to make sure I've got everyone's that that is as representative as I can. So if I look at the survey 2 weeks from now and it's like 20% Saco, then I'll probably extend it another week to try and get more.
Well, and actually advertise it too, because, I mean,
Yeah, and we're gonna promote it on our Facebook page, either later this week or next week, for sure.
Yeah, I think
but
what
it
I'm gonna,
hasn't been done, and, it's been Biddeford centric. I just feel like Saco's gonna get, be footing the bill for this, because like that train station that sits there, that doesn't make us money, that costs us money as a municipality. And so they're gonna, I don't know, I'll just leave it there.
we'll do our best to get as much participation as we can, and try to have it be representative of both, Biddeford and Saco. And so this is one survey, and then we're going to launch a second one, probably next month, that is going to take some of the ideas and some of the renderings and put those out into the public too. So we're gonna work with the steering committee and with Saco staff and Biddeford staff to kind of vet some of these ideas internally before we put them out to the public. But ultimately, like, we'd like the public to be able to weigh in on, would they like to see would they be interested in seeing bike lanes on Main Street, for instance? And, would they like or not like that? So
Who are the people on from Saco that are on the steering committee?
Jessa. We have a representative. I mean, it's a
person.
pretty
And there's,
small.
the city, there's one representative from the city of Biddeford as well. We have one representative from DOT, one from the train, and one from the bus, I believe. Is there anyone else on the committee, Rick?
No, we had a private developer, Brian Eng, at the last meeting as a guest.
So normally our process is that, when we have these kind of, first of all, it has to fit our comprehensive plan, which I believe this does. And we usually run these kind of things through our Conservation Commission, our Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and, so that they can have input, because our government is a lot about their input, and I'm just not seeing any of that happening here. So it's, I think it's great. Connecting the two cities is great.
Yeah.
But I first of all, I question the process on how this all happened this way. But in the end, if we could get a bridge over to the Fisherman's Walkway, that would be great. If we could fix that York Hill traffic mess, that would be great. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to meet with as many groups as we can. Jessa and I are meeting with the Saco, what is it, the Plan and Development Review Board?
Yeah, or just the staff group, the
Yeah.
PDRC. I don't think I've mentioned that to you yet, Bob, but we wanted to get that input as well. But we're also happy to have Rick come to the Conservation Commission or any other groups.
Yes, absolutely. Make it happen, Jessa, please.
Absolutely.
Parks and Rec Advisory Board with Ryan Summer and Tom Clack on the Conservation Commission. I mean, this
Okay,
should have
yeah,
been done
we'll
way
set
before
that
it
up.
got to this stage.
I'll be happy to set that up.
Great, good.
All right.
Well, hey, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I don't think you had to twist our arms to hear some comments, and if I had more time, I'd be throwing more at you. But that was extremely interesting, very helpful, and I appreciate that you're taking the time, Rick, and Jessa, you too, very much so.
Yeah, thank you
Yep.
both.
Yes, absolutely. This is the presentation that should be out there. This was great. We really got to talk about it. You got to say what's what and how it's coming about. This is what we need in our community, people to hear this and to weigh in. So
All right.
thank you.
We'll try and do a better job of getting out to more groups and Saco folks.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, well, take care, you two. I guess we'll move on to the next agenda item.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't forget
Thanks
to
very
send that
much.
plan.
Yes.
Thank you. Poor guy. I got my both barrels out for that one. I'm sorry, but it needed to be said and understood.
Yeah,
The community has to weigh in. That's how our government works.
Yeah, I wonder how much exposure it's gotten on the Biddeford side as well. Like I wonder.
I
Like
think it's gotten big exposure.
Do you think so?
Yeah, that whole area over there is their prime focus.
Yeah.
You know, and that parking garage, they've been frothing at the bit for years on that. And, you know, almost lost an election because of that, because there were some parking issues that were happening. But so it's been happening for a really long time. It's been their focus. They tried to get Saco to sign in on legislation to change the Saco River Corridor Commission and the oversight of the river there without us knowing. So there's a bunch of history here on this piece, and I've been advocating for a bridge over there for a long time, but to find out that they've already got all this done and I suddenly hear it, didn't make me happy.
yeah, and you know, when I think when we saw it, Chris, just what, 3 weeks ago or whatever it might have been.
It's the first time I've seen it.
I think that Rick might have redrawn the line a little bit because of my bitching about Elm Street.
Yeah.
You know,
how little of that was included.
Back in the day when I was still working at City Hall, a lunchtime walk for me, nothing unusual, would have been to walk out onto Main Street, down York Hill, up Main Street in Bedford, and then back on Elm Street into Saco and back to work, about a mile maybe. And hands down, the least picturesque stretch of that whole dang thing, you know what it is, it's Elm Street.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I think it's time for a little urban renewal on that part of Route 1. Two beautiful communities, so picturesque in so many ways, and then you get to Elm Street and it's like, yeah.
Connect.
Bob, you know what? You know, one way to get that going and to get that idea out there, Bob, is start up your morning walks again and bring people there.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. You can take in some of the Riverwalk and, you know, start with the Riverwalk. Isn't this beautiful? Listen to those birds, and then bring them over to Elm Street.
Yeah, and what everybody is now calling, instead of the Fishway, they're calling it a cemetery because this old.
Oh, that's too bad.
It is too bad. I don't like that either.
Yeah, and you know, it's just so.
It was a good effort, but
it's so utilitarian, and you know,
very utilitarian. There wasn't an artist around when that thing was designed.
It's all 1950s and 1960s. You know, parking lots right to the curb and very little landscaping, and yeah, we
yeah, that one piece back there where they park those white vans in a row, that's gorgeous.
We can do better, and we probably should be.
Yeah, but I guess we don't own that piece, so we don't have the right to say.
Well, you just wait for your opportunities, and
There you
they
go.
come along eventually. Corey, you had some great news about from Mr. MDOT, Patrick.
Patrick Adams, yes. So as this coming Friday, MDOT will be delivering to Public Works all the bike and ped signs.
Great.
Gone over them. We expanded even on the list that was provided, where there should be some others.
Wow.
They will get all delivered. I think in all total, don't quote me, there's like 30 or 40 different signs that will be delivered. The signs are at no cost because the state takes care of those costs of having them done.
Hey.
It will be, though, on Public Works to put them up. And with their schedule right now, it's going to be sporadic putting them up. So you'll see some going up, but they'll fit them in as they go along. They're getting ready to move into their new facility in this next month.
Wow.
Nice.
They have a whole bunch of other projects that are already in place. So they'll go up, but it's going to be over a 2 or 3 months period of time for all the signs to get put in place. But
Well, Corey, how many signs did you have putting down on Seaside in that whole area recently?
So in Seaside, there's going to be, when you come in from Old Orchard, on that end, they'll be down on the end where Ferry Road meets. They'll be where Bayview is. So we tried to get, this committee came up with all the locations, and Chris had provided all those locations. And then,
Yes.
so they'll be from, when you're heading down to the beach, you're coming in from Old Orchard, there'll be signs there. When you're going from Main Street, you're going to pass at least 3 or 4 signs from Beach Street down towards the beach. And if you're coming in from the Old Orchard Road, there'll be signs there. So no matter what access point you come into the city, you will pass signs.
Great.
And everything else.
I was actually asking about the no parking signs that you did along Seaside, because that went up in like, I swear it was a week. All of them were up. How many signs were there?
So are you talking no parking signs, or are you talking the bike ped signs?
I'm talking the no parking signs, just to get a sense of how long it takes them to do that. I couldn't believe how fast that was done.
So with the Traffic Safety Committee, when we pass those, when they go through and there's a vote to get put up, they turn around because we've identified that as the safety issues.
Oh, I see.
They get them plugged in and put up right away. The bike ped signs, yeah, those are traffic safety issues as well. But it's kind of on Public Works to fit those in with whatever projects they've got coming for right now.
And if he's moving, that's understandable.
Yeah, I know they're getting ready to move in middle of October at the very latest. They're hoping to have the keys for the new facility beginning of October. So they're starting to move their stuff over and kind of be in 2 different places. But Pat's assured me those will get put up, and they'll get them put out there as the crews are able to.
Great.
Very
Good. Much appreciated, Corey. Thanks for your role in that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sticking with it.
Let me see. Without either Deb or Jean here, I don't think we got much going grant writing. Education, I've been busy. Dan's not here. So let's move right on. Stickers, anything new on that one?
Well, the last on that was I got quotes from a couple of places, so it was kind of, I was going to leave it up to the group to talk about what they thought was the best approach on that. But obviously there's nobody around to talk about them. So,
well, how much were they?
There was a pretty drastic difference between the 3. I got quotes from 2 local places. Minuteman Press was one, Signorama was another, and then there was an online company called Sticker Mule, which that's kind of all they do. Theirs was, I think, $110 for 200 stickers, and then the Signorama was $190, and then the Minuteman was like $300 to $250. So they were kind of out of it altogether. And it basically came down to, do we want somebody local to do it? And Jean mentioned that she had some stuff done for Age Friendly Saco locally, and it was nice because they hold on to the graphics and everything, and you can kind of work with them, and you have access to that. Whereas if you use it online, it's like you submit it, they print it, it's done. You know, there's no future.
Especially in these COVID days, I think local is better. We've bent over backwards to have our downtown restaurants feed our seniors. I mean, that, you know,
Right.
it's worth a little
Giving
bit
back
of
to
money.
the local community and
Absolutely.
engaging with the local businesses. So I think Sinorama is the way to go, and that was probably the way it was going to happen anyway. But I'm assuming that's one of those things that we have to decide as a group, and with two of me and Bob being the only people.
Votings, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. doesn't hold any weight. So we can bring that up again next. But that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah, and tell you the truth, Chris, I'd really like to kind of expand on that a little bit. I mean, I don't want us to just have two piles of stickers and we each take some and splash them around town. I'd like to roll it out somehow and use it as a, you know, a way in the door, and, you know, introduce the committee, ourselves, introduce to local business owners and so on.
At a
So
time
Well,
where we can
I
actually do
wonder,
that.
it's a little prop kind of thing, but also I think a discussion starter and an attention getter. So I'd like to work out a few details. Here are the expectations as we distribute these stickers.
Right.
well, you know, we just talked about the DPW. They're probably going to have a grand opening. Don't they usually do a bicycle rodeo? So maybe we could put the hype all together, get more people down there, and do a rollout of this as well. I mean, you'll have the
So
news there. You'll have, you know, coverage.
Yep.
there won't be a bike rodeo this year,
Oh,
the pandemic, so that has already been canceled.
oh.
That it wouldn't be until 2021 would be the next bike rodeo.
Okay. And yeah.
Well, what about the bike loaning program at the library? Maybe a big rollout at that point, and you know.
That was another thing we had to discuss too. There were a lot of legal implications there that we were gonna go over.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that I'll let you. WG, if you want to talk about your attorney
Sure.
conversation.
So,
Tim Murphy?
Yep, so we sent everything over to Tim Murphy to have him give his legal opinion of where does this committee, who, you know, is somebody in the bike loan, who owns the bike? And who's liable if somebody gets hurt on it? Does the committee have any liability? Does the city incur liability? Does the library, if they joint partner with us, they hold some liability? In Tim's opinion, yes, we could hold some liability in that. And there would have to be some things put in place in order to limit that liability and everything. And
Sign a waiver before you take the bike.
yep, and then, you know, who's going to maintain it and everything else. And he had a whole legal opinion of things that would need to be covered beforehand. And I sent that out to, I think, Bob and to Chris, and I think it was other community members who sent it out to.
I'd love to see it.
I think it was sent to the whole Saco group.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was one of the emails from probably early August.
You guys are very intense with your emails. I like to say I read all of my emails, but sometimes it gets too much.
So
I'll forward it to you, Lynn.
Thank you.
You bet.
given the time of year, really, we're talking about 2021 at this point. So I think we can. I haven't shut the door on this myself. You know, I look over at Parks and Rec and recognize that I think they own like cross-country ski outfits, and so they put their kids out on those. I know they own 20-25 bicycles because I was part of the effort 5-6 years ago when we
Really?
and gave them. Yeah. Size-wise, they're aimed at like the middle school crowd, you know, 5th to 8th grade, something like that.
Right. I wonder if they're at the community center. There's your place to roll it out.
They should be. They should be.
What are you talking about, Bob?
Oh, about 5, 6, 7 years ago, Melissa Field, Justin Chenette, and myself got this thing going. And initially, we thought we'd raise money and buy bikes for maybe to give to like Burn School. so that they could wrap them into their phys ed programming somehow.
Yep.
I don't know if we even got as far as talking to the school people, because we ran into Joe Hirsch one day and, oh yeah, here's what we're up to, Joe. And geez, I'd accept those. So all of a sudden, Parks and Rec became the intended audience for these things. So we raised $5,000 or $6,000, had a fun time doing it. Actually bought them at Quinn's, well, what was Quinn's Bike Shop over in Biddeford. And presented them. We had a great little rollout. We filled up the John Andrews Bridge over Route 1, the East ET Bridge, with kids from the rec program one day. So we had like 400 kids out there on the bridge, and photo ops, and it was great. It was everything you want to do. And Justin and Melissa were terrific accomplices. They were excited as I was, or more.
Melissa's pretty cool, actually.
Does Parks and Rec actively incorporate those 25 bikes into their programming now? I don't know.
I'll email Ryan right now and we'll find out if he's looking at.
I'd love to know. So point being, if we can figure out the library lending program somehow, reality is we'd be rolling it out in spring of next year. I can't imagine there aren't similar programs somewhere.
Well, so there is one up in there's the one up in that town that's named after a country.
Paris, Norway.
No, that's
Mexico, Peru. We got 'em
Norway.
all.
Norway.
Norway. Okay.
Yeah, but I've reached out to them a couple of times, and so did Deb, I think, and I haven't got any response in terms of, I just wanted a little input as to how they got started, and
Yeah.
and I kind of let it go. So I guess I could kind of get back on that again.
Over the winter, it's time to reach out, and
Right.
Somebody at BCM probably knows about that program, and maybe they've got a good contact.
Well, Angela's the one that gave me the contact information that I had, which was this guy Scott. Who,
Oh, City Hall. There's somebody there will know.
yeah, I don't know if theirs is directly affiliated with their town or city, so it's a little different. But I'll dig into it a little further, and we'll track them down. We'll get some information.
So yeah, if signing a waiver becomes necessary, then so be it. And I'm not trying to say let's fly in the face of whatever that city attorney is saying by any means. Tim's advice is always good, but
Absolutely. But you know what? Our Parks and Rec, when people sign up for events, the parents have to, when they sign up for their account, do all the waiver stuff. So, we do a bunch of stuff, and just because of that, that wouldn't stop me, I would think. If my kiddos wanted to do that, sign them up.
yeah. Okay.
And maybe that's the platform that it goes through, Parks and Rec, because they do have that online sign up and whatever.
Okay, that's a possibility.
Just saying.
Maybe we can reel that in. Okay. All right, so we'll continue on that one, probably discuss further next month. Traffic Safety Committee. Corey, is there any, I don't know, are you guys meeting with any regularity at this point, or still no?
So the next Traffic Safety Committee is going to be a workshop, and we're going to take up the issue of the beach parking, start to look at how we're going to attack that in order to look at that. The second workshop item is going to be downtown parking, because a lot of the streets, because of such density of housing and parking, you can't put two cars through the streets anymore, and looking at making streets one-way streets. So those will be the first two workshop items that we're going to look at. The next Traffic Safety Committee meeting after that, late September, early October, is going to be the Turnpike improvement. They're committing their money, and they're starting to move forward in their design plan. We have some issues that we want to bring up.
What issue?
So they're not going to, the Turnpike is not going to have a community forum for their design plan at all. their stance was that when we did the Route 112 study and the community had all the comment, then they considered that to be their public forum. So for the Traffic Safety Committee, we're going to advertise it that the public attend the Traffic Safety Committee, whether it be, we will still do it by Zoom, to make any comment towards the plans for the turnpike and the new interchanges and how they're going to go, and everything that way, and what traffic lights and whatever people want to have some input. And then we'll take from the Traffic Safety Committee back to the MTA there, so we can hopefully have SACO input into some of their stuff. Their design plans that we've seen so far overall look good, but we want to make sure we get public comment from SACO residents who's it's really going to affect.
That's really surprising because they did such a great rollout. You know, they had all those meetings and everybody came up and we drew stuff, and actually they picked my idea. I talked to the guy and I said, why don't we do a slip road on both sides with things off the side? And don't you know, they picked it. So.
And that's what they consider was their public meeting for that. They're headed into the 30% design plan, as I understand it. So they're in the design phase right now of place. So, you know, by 2022, everything should be in place and open. And then our one after that, we have 8 or 9 agenda items already for some traffic safety stuff that have already been recommended. So the third meeting will be pretty packed as well, with stuff coming up for fall and winter.
You got dates on those, Corey?
I don't have dates right here, right in front of me at home tonight, but I'll send those out to the group of what they are, when they are.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be interested. And those are Zoom meetings?
Those will be Zoom meetings, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to say with that, folks, it's after 8 o'clock. Let's, I know we could talk about bike-friendly community for an hour, but.
And that's something that if the two of us are going to work on, we should probably just plan a time to get together virtually or in person or whatever and start kind of just thinking.
That works for me. Sounds fine. Okay.
Listen, you guys rock. Keep it going.
All right. Thank you, Counselor. We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for the shout out at the meeting too, at the council meeting a couple of weeks ago too.
And you guys are working on stuff.
The whole committee a nice shout out.
Yes.
Oh, good.
All the council people.
Bob, you mean you don't watch with bated breath these
I missed that. I think I was rescuing my dog from playing in the street or something.
or washing your hair.
All right, folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you
Have
soon.
a great evening.
Do we even pick out like when our next meeting is going to be, or we'll just?
Real quick.
I'll just come whenever you pick. So how about
all right.
Thanks.
October 7th. We'll see you then.
October 7th it is. I'll send out an email right now, so I make sure to get Andrew on board early.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care.
Take care, Corey. See you later.
Bye-bye.